Nathaniel, it's great to see you, man. We just say I appreciate you taking the time and coming and talking to us today. I look forward to digging in a little bit on to how you've been reconfiguring and rebuilding some teams. I know that you've got a lot going on since we talked last. I'm ready to dive into that a little bit. To start off, I'd like you to share with our listeners a little bit about your journey at Augeo and what the driving force behind your day-to-day efforts and your team's efforts are at Augeo.
My journey with Augeo started back in, I want to say 2011. I worked for Augeo for about 6 years, going from a software development director to VP of engineering. Left about 8 years ago, worked for a couple of organizations, including like a Fortune 500, a global organization, in various capacities outside of software engineering, and then came back to Augeo actually 2 years ago last week to take over the technology leadership for our workplace engagement division. On a day-to-day basis, outside of that, strategically, I am mostly pushing forward initiatives related to AI and product security. Augeo has a really solid, I would say, cybersecurity apparatus around threats and infrastructure, but I want us to bake in cybersecurity into the actual platforms that we sell, right? And so I'm pushing product security pretty hard in 2025, along with finding those AI efficiencies like every organization. For 2026, well, that's kind of tail end of planning stages. It's going to be more AI being AI native as well. It's continuing to roll forward this product cybersecurity muscle, right? We'll have started kind of building it in 2025, but we need to exercise it and make it stronger in 2026.
Gotcha. Oh man, that's great background. I appreciate that. How do you get a team to be excited about working on a not necessarily the product inside of an organization? Because that can be a challenge, right? It's a
It can
leadership
be,
challenge to do that.
it can be. There's a handful of ways one needs to think about when it comes to building but motivating teams that aren't necessarily on the snap crackle pop gee whiz platform
Yeah.
feature, what have you,
Hmm.
in an organization. On the one hand, um, I don't know where to start first exactly, but I'll just say that one must make some, I would say, realizations when it comes to not building but maintaining a staff. So one must already kind of contend with the fact that some of the people who stay behind are not necessarily, but may sometimes or may become your A plus players.
Sure.
So you end up finding that a lot of your average individuals may stick around for a long time, right? And the world is built, you know, to focus on the mean, on the average person. These people are quality people, 9 to 5ers. So I'm not really trying to say something too negative here, but I am saying that as leaders, we have to recognize that um, you won't necessarily have your hot shot folks sticking around on that particular project, right? So you might as well start with coming to grips with that.
Yeah, I tend to call those folks operators. When we look at
They're operators.
an organizational chart, you have operators in your org chart, and you need operators. Like it's absolutely critical that you have people that come every
That's right.
day. And we're old enough to remember the Dunkin' Donuts "Time to go make the donuts" commercial, right? You need that guy that shows up and makes the donuts. That's a terribly important role. And I think as leaders, the challenge is to get those folks, if they want to, prepared to move to the new thing while they continue to operate on the old thing. And I think that's
You're
a skill set that I know I saw you doing internally with some of the development staff that you had when we were on site, and I always admired how you were able to maintain that relationship with them, maintain that level of operation while still preparing if they are willing. And that's the thing. I
Yeah.
think we can't really drag unwilling people down the road with us. That's part of a challenge as well, for
You
sure.
can lead a horse to water, as they say. It's true.
And then you
But
can
let
drown
me
it.
let me talk about that for a sec too. There is a role of an executive or leader in this process as well. you have to be that cheerleader, right? When it
Mhm.
comes to, carrying water for certain organizational points of view, but also when it comes to um, making the team feel like their contributions are valued. Sometimes it's more obvious than other times, and we're
Mhm.
talking specifically about um, work that doesn't necessarily have obvious value other than, I would say, keep the lights on value. And that's, illustrating the fact that operators are important, and that keep the lights on means the lights are on,
Right.
right? So being that kind of cheerleader and finding reasons for your classic teams, your operator teams, your less glitzy teams to feel value, that is something I think that a leader can do, both via words, via incentives, but also just by attitude.
Yeah.
Being excited about the work the team is doing, and having a feeling the obvious value that this team is bringing. Because I'll tell you what, they know what they're doing. They probably cause you the least amount of headaches, right? It
Yep.
takes the least amount of your problem solving skills. Like, there is something to be valued on these teams for sure. You need to show that and keep these teams feeling valued and in a sense, excited about the work they're doing every day.
Yeah, I love that. I love that
Yeah.
thought process for sure.
Yeah. I think other people might say something along the lines of, connect your operator to the business value that their, teams are generating, et cetera. I'm sure there's some type of corporate way I can put this.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's totally fair. Um, yeah, so that's awesome. Anything else you want to share on that topic or thoughts that come to mind before we jump to
when it
sort of
comes to supporting those kind of non-glitzy teams, we've pretty much covered the gamut. Let me just talk about replacements.
yeah,
Sometimes, you're not exactly building a team, but you need to keep the team healthy. From one way or another, you might need to try to um, invest less in a platform, whatever the case may be. But at some point, somebody might retire, might get a new job, etc. So it can be a bit. I think the most challenging part of it is finding someone with those legacy skills, or more of an operator mentality, and bringing them on board. Those people exist; they're around. It's not impossible. It ends up being taken for granted that everything's already documented, or they already know how to do things. So you end up finding out that documentation's out of date or missing because the teams have been working on something for a decade and they didn't even realize because they never consulted. So you actually have to get ahead of it because there's more tacit knowledge on these teams, not less. And I think that's counterintuitive. So when it comes to building a team, you have to look for the right skills, but you have to have more, at least one additional person than you think, in order to kind of get ahead of it
yeah,
when it comes to maintaining the team, when it comes to like attrition and everything.
yeah. And you just mentioned something about the documentation piece. A drift in a existing current ongoing high velocity development path. Drift is easy to spot and easy to see, right? That's scope change. That's not what we agreed to last sprint. So it's easy to find it there. That drift is much harder to find over a 10-year window when small things were changed on a Friday afternoon to accommodate something, and I'll document that on Monday, and it never gets
You get
documented. So
this.
that drift is
Yeah,
a lot harder to identify and to reconcile for sure.
yeah.
I'd buy into that notion
And the,
very.
the last thing I think I'll add, because we're talking about missing documentation, you made that one custom change on Friday. You actually documented on Monday, but it was Monday, October 3rd, 2014. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean that somebody is going to be able to reference that specific change when they're looking for it because it's so old.
no, that's fair. That's fair. All right, so that's a good setup. And we'll segue now into the journey you've been on since a year ago.
Yeah,
Because I think you took on a little more responsibility, or at least some organizational changes occurred
that's right.
that divvied things up a little differently. And you've stepped into a role that's y- probably a little more complex in terms of the teams and the nature of the team that you're working with.
Yeah.
So walk me through the last, we probably caught up, what, 6 months ago? Walk me through the
Feels
last
like.
6 to 9 months of how that's been going. I know you brought on some new team members, some new resources, those sorts of things. How's that been going, and what's that evolution been like?
Yeah. Back in, I think, November, we consolidated the entire workplace engagement and incentives work within Augeo, within the division that I'm the tech leader for, under my boss, who's the CEO of Augeo Workplace Engagement. And so that came with a few additional tech leaders and platforms. So I didn't exactly need to clean house, although there was a little bit of that. But I reorganized a little bit. So one of my trusted leaders took over leadership of a couple of platforms, and I added like QA leadership to that different, a new platform leader is kind of like responsibility. So a little bit of that shift. So that happened about 9 months ago. But the main thing I've been working on is staffing up what we had called the platform of the future, where we are truly looking at creating something that is it's already in market as our a tremendous mid-market product with a number of AI features, social connection features, and we're really looking at um, kind of leapfrogging the market, if you will, which is to say, not just looking at what's out there today in this reward recognition and incentive space, but what we need in the future. Uh, I won't dive too deep into what our findings are and what it is we're building. It's not going to be hard to guess. But the long and short of it is we've worked on with a staffing model that's a little different than what we would normally do, where we had an existing FTE team, and we're having them each individually or in pairs supporting an offshore team. And, we've kind of changed the dial on the composition of our team, staff aug versus FTE or onshore versus offshore, and really ramped it up to be um, about 66%, maybe closer to 75, probably 75%, closer to 80% offshore. And what that really means is, cost savings, but, having this team um, understand viscerally what it's like to work with an offshore team, be responsible more for quality, code reviews, velocity than necessarily hands-on keyboard work each and every day has been a bit of an adjustment. Um, and then also, again, finding those efficiencies. We lit up Cursor, the AI tool. So figuring out how to leverage AI for coders, which is one of the few kind of like killer features that AI has. But getting used to doing that and sharing the use cases and the solves that developers have had. It's all part and parcel with this. The FTEs can be efficient so that we can really move forward quickly, have some tremendous velocity building these new product features. Um, and really that's what my journey over the past 9 months has been.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear you mention the AI, the Cursor in particular, as a tool and a platform that you're using. How Talk to me a little bit about how you as a company and you as a leader have worked to integrate AI into the workspace, your workflows, and have you considered the idea or the concept at all of digital employees? So taking that Cursor platform that you're able to work in and expanding it into more of an agentic nature of any sort to help those internal employees either read old code, refactor, understand business use cases, that sort of thing.
That's a podcast in and of itself.
Yeah.
We look at AI through the lens of being AI native, which is everything we do or build. We need to spend a moment to think: does AI support this, improve it, represent fundamental underpinnings of a feature, for example? And unsurprisingly, the product teams tend to lead when it comes to building AI into our products. Um, I've seen some real cool usage of AI or building products just around it from some interns even. We've done really cool things where AI is a powerful tool um, that kind of powers some really cool features. But let me spend a moment talking a bit more about working AI into the workflows. Because I don't necessarily know if I want to expose kind of exactly what features we're
Yeah, don't.
building and what not.
Yeah, no,
So
none of that. Don't share any secrets here. More theory and structure than
yeah,
secrets.
our workflows when it comes to AI, when it and its usage for the average software developer is like a day-to-day thing. So not
Okay.
only has it basically replaced Stack Overflow or Google about how to do something, and it has.
Mm-hmm.
But developers are getting more and more used to um, asking Cursor, which has access to our GitHub, and we even have some MCP servers set up, but I'll get to that in a sec. Where in the code base is X? If
Mm.
I want to make a change, how do I do it in my files and using the structure that we have? And that is asked day in and day out. I see hundreds of queries sometimes from certain developers. Some developers have recognized that there are certain features that we can repurpose or build onto for some uh, also for some new features, and they've been able to tell Cursor, starting here, create something that does this. I thought
Mm.
that was really interesting. I would build them a whole scaffold, front end, back end, JavaScript, the whole 9 yards. Um, I've seen some cool image manipulation where it's powered by AI at this point, purposefully.
Yeah.
Looking at leveraging AI to determine if an image is of human or non-human, for example, to see if we need additional editorial on, oh, this is a selfie, but do we have the rights? Is this something that should not have been uploaded? Can we have AI call it out? So some moderation features. So it's in there, used by about half the developers all day, every day. The other half of the developers, that's why I mentioned the MCP servers. The other half of the developers are having an interesting time figuring out how it improves their workflow. A lot of my data operations, data developer folks haven't really figured out how it helps. And QA, it seems to be 50-50.
Mm.
Some of my manual QA don't have an opportunity to use it because they have to actually be the ones going in to use the platform and doing the QA. But my QA automation engineers are using it a lot to build new automated tests. Getting back to the MCP servers, I've mentioned a few times now, we've done some interesting things connecting Cursor to Jira and Confluence, so our kind of change management and knowledge management sources, as well as SQL Server um, in our non-prod environments. And what we're doing is we're connecting requirements with tests. We're asking where to find requirements and information and kind of the lineage of changes, whether or not we did something appropriate. Somebody asked that question once. I think we have to get the prompt right for that one.
Right.
But some folks have even started asking Cursor, hey, find me all of the data where it looks like this in some of our non-structured data. So like finding where a phone number, just because that's easily structured, easily
Yeah.
kind of conceptually kind of understood. Find me all the phone numbers in the database, and it can kind of go in and say these types of tables, columns end up having phone numbers in it. So we've used AI a lot on the workflow side of it. It seems to be something that is now kind of a junior developer intern that we can task, that we can ask questions, and it goes and does a lot of research, makes some changes. That's generally how we are using it. On the agentic side, we're not quite where we're going to be by the end of the year, but we do have some easy access to cursor agents where we're able to say, tell it to go do things and return back, or tell it to make certain changes and create its own pull request. So I've seen some initial forays. We need to get better at that. One major feature, though, that I've seen that we've just trialed is Cursor's bug bot, where it will read every change that we submit a pull request for,
Mhm.
and it will do some hygiene on it and let us know and add comments in GitHub. Hey, you should think about making this change. This is empty. You're going to have a null reference here if you do something. So it's
Yeah.
actually doing some code reviews on our behalf. And that's been really interesting. That trial is about to conclude at the end of this week, and we'll see where we go from there. That's
Nice.
the most agentic thing that we've done so far.
Gotcha. Last question on the AI front. I'd love to hear, what's your secret sauce? I'm going to ask you secret sauce here to managing resistant folks on the team, people who are resisting sort of the AI infiltration, I would say. It is becoming more and more integrated, and I know I see it within teams that we work with often, where it's not ready. It's not ready. It's not ready. So we're not willing to try anything or learn or even get on the front of the wave at all. What's sort of the approach to managing through those resistors, as it were?
Yeah, it's a real good question. I'm somewhat struggling with the main type of resistor that you brought up. It's not ready for it, prime time. It's going to take me extra time to babysit this. That one I am still working through myself. There's some other resistors that I have kind of a decent approach to, where on the one hand, I'm trying to get them excited and get over that activation energy, right? Getting that chemical reaction started where they start finding AI cool and getting into it. And I'm doing that by using some of my communication methods that like the whole team is in, and just asking who's done something cool with AI this week. And we talk about it and screen share and really kind of illustrate the art of the possible.
Mm.
And I'm trying to get people, I want people to hear a use case that goes, oh, that makes sense to me. All right, I'm going to try that next time. So I am trying to continue to, through quantity, find those stories that seem to resonate instead of just telling people this is how you use AI. You hit a hammer or you hit a nail with this hammer and you turn it around if you need to pull out a nail. I'm really trying to tell people, hey, there's a really cool hammer out there. Anybody need to pound some things, right? And then maybe one day they're like, oh, I'm trying to hit a nail with my hand. Maybe I'll use a hammer.
Yeah, get it.
I'm trying to find those opportunities to kind of match up where they're recalcitrant with something that solves it for them. But the philosophical piece, I've talked to it. I don't think it's done enough from that point of view. But like trying to let everybody know that AI is imperfect, but it's imperfect like an intern or junior programmer, which is not worthless by any means. It just means, all right, I have to check what they built.
Yeah.
They built something in a day that might have taken me an hour, but I only need 15 minutes to review what they did, and so net, it did save some time. I should use it, right? And those numbers are obviously made up,
Sure.
but the bottom line is when people hear this, they still kind of hear, yeah, I've got to figure out how to do that in the first place. And if it's not a philosophical kind of, I just don't use AI, it's eating the world, which it kind of partially is. Like I can't really do anything about the political
Sure.
mindset, but when it comes to I don't have time for this, it doesn't really work for me. Just trying to illustrate all the ways it works for other people to see what resonates. I've had partial success, but that last 20%, still working through it.
Yeah, I love your the art of the possible reference. That's a great one. That is a good motivator. And the other thing that I love there is this imagery of the chemical reaction of once it gets started, it really doesn't take much more to push it, right? That once you've got it going, it's gonna react and gel pretty quickly with them. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, this has been fun. I've enjoyed chatting with you about the evolution that you're going through over at Augeo, and I think the way that you're conducting the hybrid team of internal external talent is something that many of our viewers should be able to learn from. And I appreciate you sharing your story and insights with us today.
Yeah. Thanks for reaching out. It's good
Yeah,
to hear from you. It's good to interact with you once
absolutely.
again.
Hey, for
This story.
oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
just going to say this Augeo story. We've gone back. We've been around for 25 years, And with some of the steps that we're taking, with some of our platforms, with some of our approaches, becoming AI native, it's really exciting to see how we have leveraged the end of 2024 and through 2025 to position ourselves for the future. It's been pretty exciting over this past year.
That's awesome, man. I was going to ask you for the listeners who want to learn more about the great work being done over at Augeo, where's the best place for them to go and connect with you guys?
Yeah. So we have a website, augiomarketing.com. I don't know if we have Augeo spelled anywhere. It's not necessarily one that's quite obvious. So it's AUGEO marketing.com. Check us out. Um, all of our workplace engagement, our blockchain and Kigo things are out there. We've done some amazing work in our brand networks, kind of brand advocacy and protection unit. Used AI to do some amazing things related to media buying. Check that out. Yeah, it's all at augiomarketing.com.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I will tell you that when you are transcribing thing, Augeo does not spell correctly the first 100 times. It takes it a little while to learn to spell it correctly. So I appreciate you giving that phonetic spelling there. So that's great.
There you
So
go. Well, I'm lucky Copilot knows how to spell it, but I think it's because of how we have it everywhere
yeah,
in Teams and
it just gives
email.
up.
It's kind of learned it now.
It just gave up. It spells it that way.
Maybe somebody went in and told it specifically, hey, AUGEO, and now it knows.
That's it. That's awesome. Awesome, buddy.